Welcome back, everybody. This is Family Time 224. We're talking about emotional intelligence. This is really the foundation of our family time discussions. It's also been a big point of emphasis for us lately in our teacher professional development as we look at trust-based care, relationship building, trauma-informed care. It's been a big point of emphasis with Mrs. Klein's lessons that she's been doing with the 7th and 8th grade MTSS. But so I want to talk about emotional intelligence a little more specifically. There's research out there that suggests emotional intelligence has this strong correlation to success in pretty much any endeavor. And a lot of times in school, we're pretty good at recognizing and rewarding academic intelligence, the things that might allow someone to do well on a test, remember information, that sort of thing. And that's great, but there's a lot of different types of intelligences. And parts of our school experience maybe recognize those intelligences: creative intelligence, kinesthetic intelligence. But emotional intelligence is really key to everything that we do. I really like the analogy of the elephant and the rider, right? So the elephant is like your emotions. And the cognitive part of your brain, we've talked a little bit about this, how the brain works, is that basically all of our signals, all of the information we're taking in, has to go through the base of our brain, kind of that reptilian brain, the brain stem. You can do that little signal with the hand we've been talking about. This is kind of the shape of the brain, right? And the messages come up from the bottom of the brain, and you got that little amygdala that's in the middle of the brain, and that regulates a lot of our emotions, specifically fear. And that's in the middle of the brain. And then the top part of the brain, kind of the front part of the brain, that's the kind of the higher order thinking part of the brain. Well, everything that comes into our body, all of the outside stimuli comes in through that lower part of the brain. That's a developmental thing that allows us to figure out if something is dangerous, if we should be scared, if we should be nervous. It's to protect ourselves. And we have these base reactions. We talk about fight, flight, or freeze. And those were built into us to survive times that we need to fight back against a danger, things that we have to just run away from. It's safer if we get away from it. And times where we might have to freeze and assess the situation. The funny thing is, sometimes those base processes can work against us, right? Because we might be having this survival reaction, and we don't need to be in that moment. So, understanding that we're always going to have that reaction to some extent, we're always going to process things through our emotions first, we have to close the gap between that emotional reaction and then that cognitive reaction, that top part of the brain. So how do we do that? Well, it starts by just understanding some things. So back to the elephant and the rider. The elephant is that emotional reaction. It's this powerful, powerful thing. The rider is the cognitive part of our brain, the cognitive part of who we are. And if that rider has trained the elephant, then you have this very powerful tool to move things and accomplish your goals. However, if we haven't trained the elephant, then it's going to go wherever it wants to take us because it's much stronger than we are. So we have to go about training that elephant. It starts with recognizing when we have emotional reactions to things, about understanding our emotional responses, and understanding which situations might elicit from us different responses. So I want you this week to think about some things that maybe elicit from you an emotional response. And I want you to try and think in terms, for right now, of that fight, flight, or freeze response. What are the things that cause you to kind of fight back? Maybe you snap at somebody. Maybe you get sort of disagreeable. Where are the things that you have a flight response where you try to avoid it? And then where do you maybe freeze up, where you just don't know what to do? If we can start by recognizing these emotional reactions, then we can start to train appropriate responses, and we can start to work to kind of snap ourselves out of just that purely emotional reaction. All right, until next time, much love.